It's the last day of the season. The 2021-2022 ABB FIA Formula E World Championship ends today here in Seoul at the 2022 Hanabank Seoul E-Prix. Thank you very much for joining us over the course of this season. It's been a real privilege to bring you what has been, for my money, the most entertaining season of Formula E racing. It started all the way back in Diriyah, and the first race of the season actually was won by the reigning champion Nick de Vries. Eduardo Mortara won the follow-up race. Double win for Mitch Evans in Rome. That's what he needs to do if he wants to wrap up the title here, because it is Stoffel Vandoorne who got that one win in round 6 in Monaco, who is currently leading the championship coming into this final day. Mitch Evans won yesterday, and now we are here for the final day in Seoul. And it's all about the championship fight. Eduardo Mortara eliminated from the fight yesterday after finishing behind Stoffel Vandoorne in what was ending up quite a scrappy race. So it's Mitch Evans, who won yesterday, needs to do the same again today if he has any chance of stopping Stoffel Vandoorne from becoming the Season 8 champion. Vandoorne had a reasonable run yesterday. Lost his advantage at the top of the championship, but is still there at the top of the standings with just one race to go. 21 points is the gap. That's Vandoorne's advantage over Evans. The long and short of it is, Evans needs to win with Vandoorne not scoring any points. There's slightly more complicated parts of that depending on who gets pole positions and fastest laps, but broadly speaking, that's the only way Evans can win the championship today. Andre Lotterer slipped to 12th in the standings yesterday. Sam Bird down to 13th. He's not racing this weekend. And Norman Nato is 22nd in the championship because yesterday he finished 13th, which was better than Antonio Giovinazzi has managed all season. And Giovinazzi won't be racing today either. We'll get onto that in a few moments' time. Mercedes EQ are at the top of the team's championship, but only 31 points ahead of Venturi. So that's going to be a tight fight. But Mercedes EQ do look like they're in a strong position. My name is Jack Nichols. Alongside me in commentary is the IndyCar legend Dario Franchitti, and here is the circuit. Dario, enjoyed it yesterday?
Yeah, great circuit, Jack. The question is, will it be wet or dry? Dry right now. What will happen for the race? You see turn 1 gets narrow already on the braking zone. 90 right, turns 2 and 3 taken as one corner. Right and 4. Turn 5, 6 chicane, new surface through the stadium section, just basically one long right-hand corner. You see attack mode there. It's tight left out of the stadium, back onto the city streets. The circuit gets wider, bumpier, faster. Right-hander, turn 19. This is where turn 20 at the end of the long straight. Lots of action, big accident, multi-car accident there yesterday. Main overtaking chance into turn 22. Over the finish line. That is a lap of the 2.6 kilometre 22 turn Seoul circuit.
So we will have 30 minutes of practice this morning. There you can see the Olympic Stadium. Track temperature at 30 degrees, air temperature at 28 degrees. A little bit hotter than yesterday is the theory today. When the rain will come is up for debate, but it seems like we'll get a dry qualifying and then perhaps a little bit more rain come race time, but there's just no real way of knowing. And of course this is the 100th Formula E race as well, and Stoffel Vandoorne will want to take the victory and to win the championship in style, but we'll take the championship however it comes, I guess.
Oh, absolutely right. I think we saw yesterday, he's not sort of backing into the championship. He's absolutely still attacking, and I think he will today. He doesn't have to win the race, I don't think, but he's very calculating, and that's what I think we saw from him yesterday. Mitch Evans put the maximum pressure on him, though. That's just phenomenal drive to win yesterday's race.
So, pit lane about to open, and I'm so interested to see what Evans does today, because he really struggled in practice yesterday. Qualifying in the wet, did a good job, and then suddenly in the race was invincible. And so how much of those learnings yesterday, there is Evans, will carry through to the session today?
Yeah, we felt that he maybe had a wet setup on, because he took off at the start of the race past past Lucas de Grassi into the lead. We're like, wow, he must have a wet setup on. Then we thought the red flag that happened, that's going to really hurt him because the track is drying out. Absolutely not. He controlled the race from the front to absolute perfection. I think there's been a lot of work done back at the bases of the various teams last night. Setups will have changed a little bit. The track, again, it's what's going to happen. I'm sure every driver in the field, I know, this morning, the first thing I did, open the curtains, what's the weather? Is it raining? Is it dry? And all these drivers will have done that. Stoffel van Dorn would have looked at and thought, I saw the dry conditions, like, yes, okay. Whereas I think Mitch Evans might have done the opposite. He's hoping for rain today because I think it puts more unknowns in, and there's a more of a chance that Stoffel van Dorn doesn't score any points. Oh, big lock-up from Nick de Vries into turn 4.
It was big. Initially it was like a little lock-up, and then it became a really big lock-up.
That's probably because the wall was coming towards him.
Yeah.
He pressed that a little bit harder on the brakes. Turn 21, 22 onto the... That's where the accident happened, Jess. It was a bizarre multi-car accident. It looks like the first car, I think about 15th place, approached it a little bit too fast. The other drivers were unsighted because of the spray. They used the cars as reference, the first car in, and then they just all piled in on top of each other.
So, de Vries out on circuit. And weaving his way around turns 1 and then through the left-handers of 2 and 3. As you say, he was wiped out yesterday in that accident, so no points for him. It could have been a little worse for Mercedes EQ as far as the championship hunt was concerned in the team's championship, but with Eduardo Mortara retiring from the race as well, it meant that kind of alleviated some of the pressure on Mercedes EQ, so they've still got a pretty solid advantage coming into this final day, into the stadium section, and they're making his way out again and down towards turn 16. De Vries.
I can't help thinking that Mortara was kind of the architect of his own demise yesterday. Looking at it at first, I thought, oh, John-Eric Verne's just driven into the back of him, so punted him off. But if you watch how much Edo moved under braking, Jean-Eric Verne had nowhere to go. And ultimately, Mortara was given a penalty as well as being out of the race because he had a puncture, but that really hurt the Venturi team's potential to win this team's championship. They're still in the hunt, but that would be a giant killing performance. They are the customer Mercedes EQ team, and they are fighting the factory team all the way to the finish line. Quite impressive.
It's been a really, really impressive year for the Rocket Venturi team. De Vries across the line, and he does a 1:26.172 for De Vries. And this is Robin Freitz, who, as ever, is putting in some opposite lock as he comes into turn 22. Freitz finished 8th yesterday, and the sort of point scoring really has fallen away for the Envision team over the second half of the season. Well, kind of from Berlin onwards, it sort of went downhill for Freitz and Envision. But and in qualifying yesterday, he was 16th, Cassidy 19th, as he moves out of the way, coming into the chicane. Sete Cameras at the top of the times on a 23.5.
Fastest lap we saw yesterday in free practice 2 when everybody was running at full 250 kilowatts power was a 1:21.2, but right now everybody running down at 220 kilowatts of power, which is what they'll race at, and what they'll do in the group stages of qualifying later this morning.
Van Dorn pops into 3rd place.
The Verline had a strong race yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, because he had a bad start, Verline. Ended up finishing in 7th position. Started 4th on the grid, but I think he was 8th at the end of the first lap. So it was a strange one for Verline, how he disappeared back so quickly. But he then recovered and had a decent race. But it was sort of just another classic Porsche result, wasn't it? 7th for Pascal Verline. That's about where they tend to sort of sit, unless they hook it up and win.
Which was better than Loster, his teammate. He was involved in that accident too. He was taken out in the first lap of the race, and it was all over. You can see both the Porsches there with their new power paint scheme this weekend. Both absolutely identical, which is really helpful.
Well, apparently one of the helmets is glossy and the other helmet is black. That's how you can tell them apart.
I need to get my binoculars out.
And I can't remember which one was which. So on board with Lotterer. His helmet looks quite matte, so we'll go with Lotterer as the matte. Obviously, there's the numbers on the front as well, but it's a very cool livery, nevertheless.
Yeah.
There is the Porsche gang. I think that's Thomas Loudenbach who was standing up there, and that's Florian Modlinger, the boss of the Formula E operation, Jean-Eric Verne. Evans in the pits. He He's done a install lap, but he's the only driver in the pit lane at the moment, Mitch Evans, and hasn't set a lap time. So we'll see whether that's anything notable for Mitch Evans. Here comes Jean-Eric Verne through the chicane. Yeah, so Techeetah had a bit of nothing yesterday.
Yeah, you know, Verne obviously got involved in that accident. Da Costa had part of another car embedded in the nose of his Techeetah at one point as well. So it was, yeah, I mean, a ninth for Da Costa, 6th for Verne. All right, but just not the heights that we've really seen. I have to say again, I thought Evans just controlled the race so well. It was really impressive. Just looking at the bottom of the timing screen, 19th, Fenestraz in the Dragon Penske car today. Antonio Giovinazzi, did he say tendinitis?
Yes.
Basically, I think he's hurt, he damaged his wrist. Sort of doing a bit more research on that, and we had this problem in London as well, when the drivers complaining about damaging their wrists and they cannot move the steering wheel because of the halo, and with some of the taller drivers, it means they're in an awkward position with the steering, and when it kicks back off the curb, it could cause some damage to the wrist. So we saw that yesterday with Giovinazzi's Fenestraz in there today. Bit of a baptism of fire. Bit of a tyre change going on with Mitch Evans and the Jaguar.
They just wanted to check the brakes, the engineers did, on Evans' car, so that's why he's returned to the pit lane now. 23 minutes to go. Roland quickest, the man who took pole position yesterday. He's now at the top of the times, 200ths ahead of Dennis. There is Sacha Fenestraz, the French-Argentinian racer. And he has been released, actually, by Jaguar, because he is Jaguar's reserve driver. And so he's racing in Seoul, replacing Antonio Giovinazzi, and he's driven in the rookie test in Marrakesh a couple of years ago. So we'll see what Fenestraz can do. 2017 Formula Renault Euro Cup champion, beating the likes of Will Palmer and Robert Schwartzman, and Dan Ticktum actually that year.
Don't be surprised to see this guy on the grid full-time next year in Formula E, racing currently Super Formula, Super GT in Japan.
Currently leading the Super GT Championship with Ritomo Miyata. Won the second race in Fuji a couple of weeks ago.
We've got a yellow in turn 1. Somebody's probably headed down the escape rope. We saw a couple of people do that yesterday, including in the race.
Down over the timing line comes Fenestraz. Locks up. Coming into the right-hander of turn 22 and out across the line. And Fenestraz remains in 19th place. Nato goes up into 15th position in the Jaguar. Here's a look at Robin Pryce. He was complaining about rear locking on the radio earlier on. And now he's got some front locking.
Yeah, they fixed the rear locking then. So today, last day of the Generation 2 car. Degrassi, who's driven every Formula E race so far, as you said, Jack, 100th Formula E race today, and Lucas Degrassi has been in every one so far. With Sam Bird not being here this weekend, Lucas Degrassi, the only driver to have been in every Formula E race.
He's been, I think there's about 13 people that have been at every Formula E race.
Not including you or I.
No, missed a couple. Van Dorn to the top of the times now, a 22.3. Degrassi did a strong race yesterday. It kind of settled down quite quickly, the E-Prix yesterday. Everybody kind of consolidated their positions to a greater or lesser extent, especially amongst the sort of top 4 or 5. And once Degrassi got overtaken here by Oliver Rowland.
Yeah, it was a mighty move by Rowland, wasn't it, in the stadium? And that was very slippery conditions at that point.
And once that happened, Degrassi was kind of settled for third position for the rest of the race. He's up to 5th in the championship, Degrassi, with a win and a third, and then he's really catapulted up the order because he had a second in New York as well. So after a difficult start to the year, it's really come back towards Degrassi in the latter half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely, and his qualifying performance too has really improved. I spoke to him this morning. He said, you know, I really feel at one with the car. I'm understanding the car so well, which is good and bad. Good because obviously his form right now is quite exceptional. Bad because he's moving from the Venturi team to the Mahindra team for next season for the new Generation 3 car, having just got to grips with this.
Well, so is it the best time to move teams when there's a new car?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I think it is. It's for both parties. You know, he will definitely help the Mahindra team push everything on with that new powertrain, the new car, just learning, developing that the new car, and yeah, it's all that knowledge you've got. You're not throwing it away because everything is completely new. So good timing, I think, for that.
19 minutes to go. Roland, the pole sitter from yesterday, returning to the pit lane. De Vries comes up into 5th place for the Mercedes EQ.
And Roland is going to be Lucas de Grassi's teammate next year. And during qualifying yesterday, when Roland got pole, pipping de Grassi in the final, basically said, well, that's the first, I think he said, first arse kicking that Lucas is going to receive from me. So that shows the mentality of racing drivers.
Yeah. Certainly the mentality of Oliver Roland, but I think he's quite. I think I mentioned this yesterday, but he's excited to have de Grassi in to try and push the team forward and to be quite punchy. Here is Jean-Eric Verne, who had that 6th place finish yesterday after some scraps in the middle of the top 10. 18 minutes to go. Setting cameras, done a reasonable first sector. Nato goes up into 15th place again. Evans in 17th currently, 23.7, 1.3 seconds off the pace, but he's just done a cool-down lap, I think, Mitch Evans, so maybe pushing next time around. Dennis returns to the pits after he goes 3rd quickest, so British drivers 2nd and 3rd, with the Belgian at the top. Cassidy, the New Zealander, slots into 6th position. The two Brazilians, de Grassi and Sete Camera, together at the moment.
That'll be turn 18 then. That's where Oliver Roland had a moment yesterday. Went from rack stop to rack stop in this straight line, kept the thing out of the wall, and I think he was as surprised as we were that the car got through that corner. You know, we said it was kind of a meh day for D'Estachita yesterday.
Yeah,
but they're still right there with Venturi in the team's championship, and they could. Good day today for them, and they could move up to 2nd, which is that'd be quite something.
Yeah, the championship is gone for them, but they are 16 points back from Venturi, so they get a good points haul. Could be moving up there. Both Neos retired from the race yesterday in that first lap accident. Both Turvey and Tictum involved. And Oliver Askew was involved as well, and he's back in the pits, getting a tyre change.
I think we saw yesterday, yet again, the benefit of the halo. You see the halo around the drivers, it's that kind of horseshoe-shaped thing above the driver. And in all types of racing, it's really saved a lot of drivers from injury and worse. And yesterday, again, we saw Nick de Vries basically slide right underneath Sebastian Buemi's car. And he had to sit there for about half an hour, but he was no worse for wear afterwards.
Berline lock-up into 22. Evans had a lock-up there yesterday during the race, and he said it's because he got sort of distracted, didn't really know where Antonio Giovinazzi was going, and that's what put him off. Berline goes to the top of the times. Here's a look at his lock-up.
And it's the outside wheel as well. That makes it very difficult to turn into the corner. Yeah, we gave Mitch a bit of a hard time. We said, oh yeah, almost perfect race yesterday, Mitch. Yeah, almost perfect. What happened? 22. I mean, that could have been very costly for him. But yeah, just a fantastic race. 3 sets of tyres for the 2 races for this weekend for each car.
Evans currently 19th fastest and in the pits, as we just saw. Dan Tictum in the 33. He is up in 11th place at the moment. He's just on a cool-down lap. We'll get his first sector split as he comes into the stadium. Round the long right-hander, and he's less than a 10th away from Verline, but Roland and Dennis are both improving on this lap, and he's backed off, I think, hasn't he, Tictum? No, I'm not quite sure. Couldn't quite read that. It looked like he was taking it quite steady.
I think he is. Yeah, he's certainly not pushing to the absolute limit. Jake Dennis is, though. Yep,
3/10 up after the first 2 sectors. Into turn 22, out across the line, and Dennis goes to the top. A 1:21.905. just a pretty satisfactory day, I think, yesterday for Dennis and for Roger Griffiths. Dennis qualified in 5th place and then finished in 4th position.
We didn't really talk about it much, did we, yesterday? Just
no.
Him and Lucas Di Grassi just quietly went around their business and got a whole haul of points.
Lotterer was also out in that first crash. He's at full power now. Coming through turn 18. Down into 19. Last race with Porsche for Andre Lotterer in Formula E anyway. And he's a 10th of a second down after the middle sector.
Yeah, I think we might see him come back next year in Formula E, but he's going to be running full-time in the World Endurance Championship in Porsche's LMDH program there. The statistic with Lotterer, it just boggles the mind, is he hasn't won a Formula E race. And he goes quickest at the moment, 121.8. How is that even possible?
Good final sector for Andre Lotterer. He's been on the podium on 8 occasions. Oliver Askew slots into 3rd place in the Avalanche Andretti. The other Andretti of Dennis just moving out of the way. He's turned it up to full power. And quite a lot of them are going for full power now with 13 minutes left on the clock. Here is Verline with another lock-up on the outside left. That was exactly the same as before.
And I would say there's maybe an issue with that left front brake disc that it keeps grabbing, because it keeps locking that the loaded tyre, because he's starting to turn in as it locks. So you've got more pressure on or more force on that tyre pushing it down. So it shouldn't, if anything's going to lock, it should be the inside tyre that's unloaded. So maybe there's a wee issue with the carbon brake disc, so they have to maybe replace that.
Less than a 10th of a second separating the top 3 at the moment as Di Grassi in the Venturi comes into turn 16. First sector for Di Grassi is reasonable. He's less than a 10th slower than Lotterer. Here he comes up towards turn 19. Askew keeps out the way. Second sector split coming up, and Di Grassi is still just under a 10th away from Andre Lotterer, but Dennis is improving, as are Vernon da Costa in the DS de Cheetahs.
It's a great shot. You could look inside the front brake, right front brake disc, and see it glowing from the aerial shot. I think Di Grassi got unsighted by the Porsche of Andre Lotterer.
Di Grassi jumps up into 7th position, then into 2nd goes Nick Cassidy in the Envision, just 9 thousandths slower, but I think Dennis and da Costa are going to both put good laps in. Verne has gone 3rd, da Costa does go to the top of the times by 4/10 of a second. So big lap that from da Costa. Mortara has done a reasonable first sector. Here is the Rocket Venturi man now.
I think he hit the wall.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think coming through turn 9, or 10 actually, I think he bounced it off the wall. Not a big impact. It was interesting looking, I think it was Oliver Owen's car yesterday on the podium, and he curbed the wheel. Just brushed.
Really?
He brushed the wall so precisely that he curbed the wheel. It looked like me trying to parallel park.
Mortara into 19, making his way past Sete Camera.
And I think Sete Camera might have hurt his momentum just a little bit there.
100th up after the middle sector, Mortara. Van Dorn's done a reasonable sector 1. Evans, he's in the pits again. He's done a similar amount of laps to everyone else.
Yellow and 13, Jack. Sorry, and that's not the kind of place. Unless the car's stocked, there's no runoff there.
Okay, so that's just at the end of the stadium section. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Here comes Van Dorn. But yeah, Evans in the pits again. It feels like he spent a lot of time in the pits today, Mitch Evans.
Yeah,
he's done 9 laps. But he's just left the pit lane now, so he's back on his way again.
And he was not happy yesterday, was he, in the drive with the balance of the jacket, the grip, everything. And then it all came together, even as the track dried out in the race. All those niggles that he was not happy with seemed to go away.
Attention all teams, this is race control. Full course yellow in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow, full course yellow.
Askew's just stopped. I don't see any damage on the car.
No, and it's an odd place to have had a wall hit and then pulled up there. Yeah. Like it could have happened earlier in the stadium, but it looks as though it's just a bit of a breakdown for Oliver Askew.
other option there is 13 really tightens up. And yeah, he's just stopped and it's just gone over. Yeah, 13 actually really tightens up as you come through, so I thought maybe he got a bit excited on the exit. Carried a bit too much speed.
Okay, everybody, full course yellow ending in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Green flag, green flag.
And that's tough for Askew because he's now missing 10 minutes of practice essentially, so a third of the session up next qualifying. So it's going to put him behind the 8 ball, as to say.
Mortara quickest, a 1 minute 21.349. Just less than a tenth quicker than Da Costa and Dennis. Sergio Camera had done the fastest first sector of anyone before the red flag came out, so let's see what he does this time. Down into the first corner for the Brazilian. And not much by the looks of things. He then backs off. He done his cool down. Oh, he did a quick final sector actually, so maybe they decided to finish that lap and get that data in.
Just thinking ahead to the race, it is so humid today. Especially if it doesn't rain, the energy consumption I think is a little different than it was yesterday. Because it was wet for those first laps, I think the drivers were able to push as it dried out just to the maximum. Today, if it stays dry, as humid as it is as well, and because of the battery temperature, it might be an issue. That'll limit how much they can regenerate energy back into the battery. So might see a bit more lifting and coasting, unless of course it rains, which right now my weather app's forecasting rain at 4 o'clock.
Well, here he is, Mitch Evans. Oh, he's been in the pits a lot. Oh, what's going on? 300s up after sector 1. The Jaguar man now heading through these quick corners at 17, 18. After turn 19, which is this next right-hander, will get his middle split. What's it going to be for Evans? Oh, he's nearly 2 tenths up. He's feeling it this morning.
He's got a wee bit of traffic though. But this is the thing, you know the car feels right at the moment. You're looking at the dashboard. Even if you do get traffic, you're looking at the dashboard. Yeah, this is it. This is what we need. And that's not what you need. Locked up again, the unloaded wheel. Maybe there's just a huge bump over to the left.
Evans across the line, goes into 4th place. Lost a bit of time in that final sector, but ahead of Stoffel Van Dorn. And a tenth of a second away from Eduardo Mortara, and that is the most encouraging dry lap really that we've seen all weekend from Jaguar and Evans. Across the line comes Nick de Vries. Evans saying he's still struggling with the brakes, as we saw. Cassidy returning to the pit lane. Vern into turn 22. Turvey, 20th place at the moment for the man from Penrith.
This should push him up the order quite nicely.
He's done personal best in the first 2 sectors. Could get into the top 10 here, Turvey. 8th for the Neo driver.
He's another one. Where does he end up next year? Does he stay at Neo? Where does he go? The driver market, there's all kinds of rumours and stuff which we can't really talk about, but the driver market in Formula E is absolutely on fire right now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
The amount of drivers that are actually staying with the current teams are with is minimal, I would say.
Yeah, I think if you look at the, I mean, you've only really, it's only really Jaguar that are going to have the same 2 drivers next year. Is that the only team?
What I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only Jaguar will have the same 2 drivers next year, I reckon.
Well, not the same 2 drivers they got today, because Sam Bird's going to come back.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so if this is your first Formula E race, it'll all be different at the start of next season. January, Mexico City, the opening race. Here's Fenestraz at full power.
8 tenths off through the first sector. And a bit of oversteer there. This is a baptism of fire for Fenestraz, and you know, if he can get anywhere close to the top 10 today, that would be a massive achievement.
Would it have been, how much easier would it have been to have come in yesterday? Or would it have just been the same?
It would have been the same, but he would have had yesterday to learn for today. You know, it's just,
oh, he's in the wall.
Yeah, just clipped the curb, and when you saw it, it just pushed him wide.
3.8 seconds away in the end. It didn't sound like it was too damaging a hit. Jay Penske there at the Dragon team.
The carbon fibre specialists in the team were very busy last night putting bits and pieces together for all the damage that was done. And as I said, the cars, after today, they're not going to be using the cars anymore, but there's I think it'll be quite a physical race here again.
This is Fennestrauss is on board.
Too much courtesy, just snaps to oversteer, overcorrects, and catches the wall.
Van Dorn making his way out onto the circuit. We're going to get a real flurry of laps at the end here, I think. As Lotterer heads out on track. Less than 4 minutes to go. Dennis coming down, the two Envisions behind, weaving around to try and get a little bit of temperature. Wait, Franz locking up to try and get a bit of temperature. And floors it now, starting his lap. And oh, he's finishing his lap actually, sorry. So Franz was finishing his lap and jumps into 6th position.
I wonder if he's weaving around there trying to sort of get Dennis's attention.
Yeah, maybe. Here's Mortara. First sector, a 10.5 up on his previous best.
He was committing there through 12 and 13. Just skimming the walls.
Mortara, I think he's the driver that goes closest to the walls. He's always like
Exhibit A.
Yeah, he's always just feels like unnecessarily close to them, but never hits them. But he's the one driver where you know he leaves no margin at all.
I'm not sure it's unnecessary. If you can do it, it's
right.
A massive help. I was never able to get that close. If I got that close, I'd generally bounce off the thing, to be honest. But he's got this uncanny ability to just absolutely thread the needle every corner, doesn't he?
And like obviously all the racing drivers are good at being close to the walls, but Mortara really stands out when you watch him. Here he comes out of the final corner. It's going to be quite a big lap. This could be a 1 minute 20. It's not. It's a 1 minute 21.019, but it's 4 tenths quicker than anyone else has managed so far. Here's a look at Mortara. Oh, lovely.
He is worth the price of admission, isn't he? Massively entertaining. Watch for the snap of oversteer.
Whoa. That could have done the rear.
You know, I drove the Gen 2 car yesterday, and those flip-ups over the front wheels, those covers, they really restrict your vision as well on how close you can get to the wall. So the experience these guys have had over 4 seasons, it really helped them to understand the limits of the car.
Pascal Wehrlein, no lockups this time into turn 22, and the Porsche driver remains in 11th place. Lost a lot of time in the first sector, so maybe an error there. Here's Mitch Evans, 3 tenths down after the first 2 sectors.
Let's see what his brakes are like into turn 22 this time. This is where he's had the issue all morning. Nope, not great. Again, locked that left front. This is when they had to find out, is there a bump setting it off, or is it just purely a brake issue?
Evans did a personal best in the final sector there and ended up half a second away from Eduardo Mortara. Van Dorn is improving but not setting the world alight. Andre Lotterer fighting the car through the right-hander. And he is 7 tenths down. He lost a lot of time in the first sector as well. So no one really setting the timing screens alight at the moment. We've got less than a minute to go as Lotterer comes down into 22.
It's interesting that Wehrlein and Evans have that same problem in turn 22 with the front brakes.
Lotterer remains in 8th place. Here's a look at Robin Freitz in the first sector. Oi! Buemi.
I have to say, I have to agree with Freitz on that one. What was Buemi doing? Well, we were having a bit of an argument yesterday with the safety crews.
Yeah.
About they had to get out of the car so they could lift the car off the top of Pim de Vries's car. Sean Byrne got rush hour there. And they had a bit of an argument with a lot of different people, and eventually the FIA official just came out with the safety car, picked him up and took him away.
Here's a look again at Jean-Eric Verne. Freitz trying to bail out of the way at the last minute. Dakota takes the checkered flag and goes second, so he manages to improve. No one else improving at the end there. Like one improvement in the last 3 or 4 minutes of that session. Bit of an odd one.
Absolutely. Still 15 cars in a second.
Yeah, absolutely. And Freinz is on a lap, is he? Yeah. His first sector is 1.3 seconds down, though, so...
He's on a lap, it's just not...
Yeah, exactly. But encouraging enough for Evans. Van Dorn is still there in 6th place, but Evans just needs to qualify at the front. Van Dorn just needs to do what he's been doing all year. Those are the two that are going for the World Championship title today here in Seoul.
Question is who could put it together. We've got a couple of chances in group qualifying coming up very soon. Which one of the two of them can thread the needle? Again, Evans really getting pole position, getting the 3 points for pole position would massively help his chances of lifting the championship. Big lock up from Robin Freinz into turn 22 that time.
We've got an hour and a half until qualifying. Checker flag. Oh, a big lock up for one of the Nissans as well. I think it was Gunther. And Mortara is going to end the session quickest, and I'm sure he was quickest yesterday, Eduardo Mortara. But Van Dorn climbs out of the car.
Heads off up the pit lane to be weighed by the FIA. After every session you get weighed.
Van Dorn was quickest in free practice 1 yesterday. I'll have a look at free practice 2. But yeah, it was a strong performance that from Eduardo Mortara to be 3/10 up on Da Costa. He was second quickest yesterday, was Mortara, but then, as we say, didn't actually finish the race.
You see the practice starts going on here. Yesterday's start obviously under wet conditions, and Oliver Rowland on pole position as he headed off the line, got a good jump on when he crossed this sponsor logo. Painted, you see the Allianz sponsor logo. As he hits that, it's just got massive wheel spinning. You can see his head kind of nod forward, and that allowed Mitch Evans, who made a great start as well from 3rd place, to get past him. But then the key to Evans's race was that move into turn 1 where he outbraked Andre Lotterer. Just a mighty move, a real sign of intent for the race yesterday.
It's an onboard start with Lotterer. Degrassi, wasn't it, that Evans passed into turn 1 yesterday. And Evans complaining about his brakes on the radio still, so that's a little bit of an issue. There's the baseball stadium that this circuit kind of loops around. Well, it goes in between this stadium and the Olympic Stadium. The lawnmower's out. We've got quite a small lawnmower for such a big baseball field.
It's about accuracy though, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know much about it. There he is. Look, like that's.
He's put stripes on the jacket.
Yeah, I know. I
think he's aerating that.
Oh, is he?
We should ask our resident golf expert, Vernon Kay, about that one. What he's doing. Putting lots of holes in the grass or something so the water.
At least he's an expert in something.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Oh, and there's another guy down here. What's he up to?
He's cutting the grass. He's putting the stripes in the lawn.
Okay. Great stuff. Well, welcome to Formula E Horticulture.
Oh. Da Costa, a bit of a neck issue there. You said he's trying to stretch his neck out. All those bumps taking the toll.
Well, he ended the session second quickest. For the final race of the season, the final free practice session of the season in the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. And Eduardo Mortara ends it fastest. Da Costa second, Dennis third for Avalanche Andretti. Evans there or thereabouts in 4th. He basically needs to win with Van Dorn not scoring if he wants to win the championship this afternoon. Lucas Degrassi 5th, Van Dorn 6th, Freinz, Lotterer, Cassidy and Turvey. The rest of the top 10. Reasonable lap time that from Oliver Turvey, Pascal Wehrlein completing the top 11. So both Porsches up there in the top half of the field. Norman Nato in 12th position, Jean-Eric Verne. In fact, all of those, there's a lot of drivers within a 10th of a second. 9th through to 15th are all within a 10th. Oliver Rowland down in 18th position, and Sasha Fenestraz 2 seconds off the pace in the end, which isn't too bad considering it's his first run of the weekend. But Eduardo Mortara quickest in free practice 3. Let's look at the Han River that goes through the center of Seoul. Used to be one of the the main trading routes between South Korea and China. Nick de Vries sitting next to Albert Lau, his race engineer. 14th quickest for Nick de Vries in that particular session. Evans, there's something with the brakes, isn't there, with Evans? He's going straight to sort of have a look at them at the front. Now he's going out to have a chat with Josep Roca out the front of the garage as they walk down to the FIA.
They tend to do this, don't they? They walk down and do this sort of debrief, walking down pit lane.
I like it as a vibe. I like it.
Absolutely.
I can't think of any...
Such an important relationship with the engineer.
I feel more comfortable than yesterday.
Is he comfortable or confident?
Well, same thing. It feels better than yesterday.
Yeah. But what does he do? Does he change the brakes and go into qualifying with completely an unknown set, or stick with what he's got? That's basically the choices.
Jake Dennis back in the pit lane as he hauls himself out of the Andretti. Third quickest for Dennis. And there come Rocker and Evans again. Something's not right on the fronts. So yeah, lots of...
Towards the end of the run, was it still behaving that rather one side or the other? Okay.
The turns are kind of similar.
Yeah,
but the left are more drivey in the end.
Because the temp gets what happens at one point of the brake, but the actual temperature of the whole disc is what it is. Yeah. You're just detecting that point. That could be really high or really low. But if you feel it on the behavior, then it's something right. Okay.
So there's a high point of the disc which is grabbing every time.
Right.
That's causing the lock-up.
That's how you can get involved in Fan Boost. FIAFormulaE.com/fanboost or scan the QR code. The final practice session of the year got underway with Mitch Evans looking to win the championship. He needs to win with Stoffel van Dorn failing to score fundamentally. Nick de Vries, the other Mercedes EQ driver, was the first man out on track and had the circuit to himself as he locked up at turn 4 rather dramatically for an outlap. Another little one coming into turn 16. Jean-Eric Verne ended the session down in 13th quickest for the DS Techeetah squad. Stoffel van Dorn ended the session 6th fastest after looking reasonable in the early stages, making his way past Max Günther. Had a brief full course yellow with about 10 minutes to go because of Oliver Askew. Evans had a reasonable run, ended the session 4th quickest for the Jaguar team, much better than he had yesterday in free practice. With what looks like a dry qualifying, Evans looks like he'll have a chance of getting through. Sacha Vennestraus making his Formula E debut and saying hello to the wall. He might not have actually hit it, it was very close, just a little brush for the Frenchman. Eduardo Mortara, though, ended the session quickest despite this big old slide and nearly clipping the wall on the exit of 21.019, leaves him at the top of the times after free practice 3. Right then, hour and 20 minutes from now, qualifying gets underway. Final qualifying session of the season could be huge in determining the destination of the Season 8 Championship. Can Evans do it? Can he overcome a 21-point deficit and win the title ahead of that man? Find out later.